Welcome for this webinar. I'm happy to present you Madame Champion, new psychologist since 3 weeks now. And I thank you very much to accept to make this webinar tonight.
So, hi everyone, thank you for joining this webinar tonight. So as Denis Bittman said, I am Céline Champion, the new school psychologist. So I will just start to introduce myself and let you know a little bit about my role at CFBL. And also I will start this webinar by introducing 3 key points that I thought were really relevant when we talk about health and well-being. And also we have received some questions, so I will after that address the questions. I've grouped them by themes, so we received a few questions and I thought it would be good to put them together. So you also have the opportunity in the chat to put more questions if anything comes up for you. So unless Denis, you wanted to say something else, I'll start.
Sorry, just to tell you, yes, if you have some questions or more questions, don't hesitate to write them on the chat and we'll try to answer at the end, and maybe during the webinar in case of some of the questions are linked to what is just told by Madame Champion. So use the chat better than your Q&A and let's start.
So first, a little bit about myself. I'm a qualified psychotherapist and my background is working in private practice. I have a number of clients of different age groups, of different background. And prior, part of my experience has been working with charities and the National Health Service. So I have been here at CFBL for 3 weeks. I am part of the Collège team, and my role is to help with the school staff, the teachers, and I also work and meet the parents and the children to assess and identify, what they might need to support them, and refer them to external resources when suited. So now I think I'm going to introduce the three themes I wanted to talk about. So I think first a little bit about anxiety. So that's my first point. As you all know, we are all on edge because of what's happening right now with coronavirus. Our daily lives have been disrupted. We are unsure what tomorrow may bring. So COVID has heightened our level of anxiety, and I think we have this narrative of being positive, that life should be joyful and that it should be happy all the time. We have become uncomfortable with negative and darker feelings. So we need to remember sometimes that it's okay not to be okay. It's normal to feel scared and to feel anxious. So at the moment, it's a real challenge. It is time to find courage and not to belittle our anxieties. We need to find strategies to cope and to live through these emotional disturbances that we are experiencing in a healthy way. So more than ever, we're going to have to reach in our resources, inner resources. So one of the things and advice in dealing with our own anxiety is that the most powerful way to make sure that also for your children to feel secure and is that you try and manage and contain this anxiety in a healthy way, and to I think if your children are feeling worried, learning how to deal with that is going to be key and will help the whole family to feel more resilient, both now and also when the pandemic is over, because it will end at some point. So also let's remember that anxiety manifests itself in our negative thoughts, patterns, and on a body level. It goes together. The two are related. So it's sometimes in our mind, we get very negative thought patterns, but also physically, we might have our heart might start beating fast. We might get sweaty hands. So it's on a physical level as well, which is why sometimes we don't sleep very well, or we're not physically very well. So, you know, that I think it's something to really be mindful of. And the treatment for anxiety isn't to make the fear go away, but it's to manage the fear and tolerate the uncertainty. So, you know, some parents might be having a harder time in dealing with COVID. And some of the anxiety that children are experiencing might be sometimes passed on a little bit by worried parents. So that's why we have to be extra attentive, because it helps for children to see how we react to this stressful time. So we need to be mindful and more than ever focus on what we can do to feel better. And when necessary, remember to try to come back to the present. So we need to find alternative way. So this is a word on anxiety. So how do we do that? So that leads me to the second point, which is about the importance of self-care as parents. There is a book that I really like about an English psychotherapist called Philippa Perry. She said the cliche is true. Children do not what we say, they do what we do. So, you know, let's remember we are their first role model, and we have a major influence on our children. So we do need to look at our own behavior. We are often told that looking after ourselves is selfish, but actually it's about self-care. So I like to use the mask analogy. You know, when we are traveling and we're on a plane, when they start the security measures, they often talk about if we experience a lack of oxygen, the mask will drop. And they often say, and they do say, parents first and then children. So that's what I mean by self-care. That's why it's important that we do look after ourselves, because, you know, this is how we are going to make our children feel more secure. So looking after our physical health, but after our mental health is important. So self-care, again, is about what you can do to help yourself feel better and to keep yourself feeling good. It's a way that we can look after our own mental health and well-being. So there are lots of different ways we can self-care. We all have our favorite, I'm sure. I mean, for myself, for example, I love cooking. I love chatting with my friends. I love exercising. So we all need to sort of identify what is it at the moment that's going to make me feel better. And also being really mindful of the way we tend to deal with our thoughts, and we need to focus on what we're doing right now, what we're doing right, what's going on, and what we're doing well, just in the present moment, rather than let our mind rush to maybe catastrophic scenarios. So it's to come back to the present, what we're doing right now, what we can actually control, and really refocus our energy on that. Which leads me to the third point. So we talked about the anxiety, the self-care, and within the self-care, there is something about setting good boundaries for ourselves. So what is a good boundary? I think it's about recognizing our needs know our limits, stop and think about what's going to be acceptable, what's not acceptable for us, for the family, and what are our needs. We need to set some boundaries maybe around information, for example. We can be absorbed by the news at the moment. We can all be constantly on our phone, and I think it's really important maybe to set ourselves some healthy boundaries so that we don't get carried away with the news, especially if we are prone to anxiety. But boundaries is also about establishing maybe some routine. Our life has been sent into chaos. We don't have the normal outside boundaries. We don't have the same habits. So we need to set some boundaries for ourselves, maybe around regular meals, time we spend with the family. Sleep is also very crucial. So set some good boundaries for ourselves. And also, when I say for ourselves, it's also around work. How do we, stick to some good routine around that? When do we start our day? When do we finish our day? So I think these 3 points are important. They're all part of, how do we deal with anxiety? And how do we look after ourselves? And then maybe by setting ourselves some limits, getting to know ourselves better, I think that all these things are important and help. So you will see that these 3 things will come back into the questions. That you will see how they're all relevant, because in the questions I received, there was a lot of things about boundaries, self-care, and anxiety. So that will bring me to go to my to the first question I received, which came back a lot, which is about my child. My child is worried about COVID. What do I tell him? So your child is worried, and children don't like to be kept in the dark. So there's something about listening, validating their feelings, and take the time to talk to your child, to listen, and to accept their worries. They are very real for them. So explain that worries are normal, and everybody has them from time to time. So, we help them to sort of contain the anxiety, and we have a few tools. We could let them know it's okay to feel anxious right now. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel angry. We can't predict tomorrow. We can't predict the holidays. So validating the feelings, and this can then take us to, what do we do about this? What can we do? And focus on maybe some tools that we have for that. So I'll talk a little bit about the tools that we have to deal with anxiety for children. So according to the age group, we have different tools. I think for younger kids, what works really well is a worry box. So you can help them with that. You can set some time aside and help them create a worry box. You can decorate it with them. And then you can say, well, let's write what you're worried about on a piece of paper. And then we're going to put it in the worry box. And we're going to find a place in the house where we're going to put the box. And then maybe you can set a time every day where we're going to revisit the box and maybe write other worry. But it's about setting some time aside to put the worries in a box so that we can leave them there. This is the thing that we can do. And then it's about having that time and sitting with them, and then know that you're sharing that with them. And I think it's very comforting for our children. So that's the worry box. For, I think, maybe older kids, an anxiety diary can help. So writing things down and putting it on paper, just a couple of words, might help, because it's about putting it on paper, taking it out of your chest. And again, if you do that on a regular basis, it can be very useful. It can really, really help. And also understand that there are two types of worry. So there are the worries we can do something about. So, we can reflect on that. What are you worried about? Is this something we can do? Is there something we can find a solution? So if that's the case, okay, let's work out together a solution. But there are some worries which we don't know. It's just a thought. It's just the mind, who has this narrative going around and around and around, and we don't know what to do. So we can just try and learn how to let go of this worry and just think, okay, I'll set some time aside for this. That could be the things that you write on a piece of paper, for example. So once it's written down, you can put it in the box, you can put it in your diary, and you can think, I can't do much about this. I'll dedicate some more time to it tomorrow, but right now it's done. Let's carry on with my day. Let's focus on something else. Let's focus on what's going on right now, which is going well. So I think those tools can be really, really useful. And if you want more detail on these exercises, you can always email me and I can send you more detail about how you do the worry box, a bit more detail about a diary. So I can send you a little bit more about that. So I will move on to the next question that I got, which is something that came up. So someone in the family died from COVID, and my child is worried that he might have passed the virus onto him. So this is very sad. Your child is probably feeling very sad, first of all, but also it sounds like he's feeling guilty. He's grieving that person in the family. So it must be very confusing for him if he feels responsible for that. So first, of course, it's to acknowledge that he's grieving, and that he's very sad, and really help him to say, I can see that you're sad. I can see that you're also worried that you might have passed on that virus. So acknowledge that, sit with him, as painful as it is, to just allow him to feel that, to feel sad. And maybe you can explain that even if this person has passed away, he can continue. The person is not here physically, but the person is in his mind, and he can continue to maybe entertain a dialogue with that person, and maybe he can write a letter to express how he's feeling about the situation. And another thing about that could be helpful is maybe using some CBT, what we call cognitive behavioral therapy. We have a few tools for that. When the mind tends to take us in different direction, it's sometimes useful to come back to the fact. So sort of challenge the thought. He feels he might have passed on the COVID. So we might want to challenge that a little bit. And you could help him by saying things like, is this thought the truth? Where is the proof? You can also look at, are my thoughts accurate? Could there be any other explanation? And how helpful is this way of thinking? Is this useful to think this way? Just to sort of gently challenge and show that there might be another way of looking at it, because was he sick when the person got sick? So just to help him to look at it in a different way. So I think it could be really important as well, and obviously gently with him. So that leads us to my next question, which is something that came up. So my child is very negative at the moment and can't see how this is going to stop. What can I do to help? So you need to help your child because he's having a lot of negative thoughts. We're all feeling quite negative right now. I mean, it's really hard to look at this situation. And as I said in the beginning, it doesn't feel like it's ever going to end, but it will. It is temporary. So we need to sort of remember that. But maybe, you know, a little word on negative thoughts. You know, we are wired for the negative. Our brain tends to scan for danger. We have inherited this from the Stone Age brain. This is, you know, what was happening. In order to survive in the savannah, we had to be on alert. We had to scan for danger. So our brain does that. It constantly look at the danger and we look at the negative, so that it's kind of it's a way to protect ourselves. Mother Nature wired us this way. So the good news is our brain is also plastic. We know now that we can rewire the brain, which is why I think it's really important to help maybe your child to understand that, okay, what are the negative thoughts? Let's write them down. And maybe, you know, once you've written them down, you can start again using a few of the CBT techniques I've talked about. Start to challenge the thoughts. You know, do you believe this thought is 100% the truth? You know, is that thought thought real? Is this true? And then once you look at that, maybe help your child to make a list of things that went right in their day, to help them develop an optimistic outlook. So to focus more on what they can do right now, rather than what they can't do. So really refocus your energy into what can I do right now? I can't control this. So refocus on what you can control. I can control how I look after myself. I can control that I'm going to talk to my friend tonight. Refocus on the here and now. And remember to sort of come back to the present, to kind of stop the thoughts. So these are little tools that can help when we're experiencing negative thoughts. So I'll move to the next question, which is, since working from home, I work all the time and feel completely overwhelmed with work. How do I help my child understand? So this is where the notion of boundaries come into this. I spoke a little bit about boundaries in my introduction, spoke how important it is to set ourselves some boundaries at the moment. So you might want to tell your kids, your children, that you're having difficulty right now. You might be having more work. Everything's been changed. We're not having to commute. We're not having to leave the office because we have the nanny who needs to go home. So we find it harder to set those boundaries around work. So you're the only person that can do that. So you might want to think about that. How am I going to do this? How am I going to look at, rebalancing my work life and also the family life? So maybe let them know that you're working and on trying to find a way to rebalance things. Maybe you can let them know that it's a temporary thing, it's not going to continue forever, that you're going to find ways to cope with this situation. And maybe think about rethink about the time and how you can spend time with your children, and ask them what would you like to do, because I think there's a need for them to, they are also more at home, they are also spending more time maybe on screens, so the family life needs to be reorganized. So maybe that's something for you to think about around work. How am I going to reshuffle things? How am I going to make sure I spend time also with my children and rebalance my work life? So I think I'd like to have a look at questions, if we have some.
Yes, I think you have one about separate parents. And I think you could try to reply about separate parents if parents have not the same idea about the COVID, one is believing it and the other one not, which advice. And maybe also I can, about separate parents, you could speak about how to deal with one parent is in France and the other one is here in UK, and that's the case for a lot of our, not maybe a lot, so a few students of CFBL. So maybe separate parents.
It is a difficult situation. So when parents is not believing in COVID, I guess you mean by that the parent is not taking the disease seriously and is not taking the sanitary measures. So I think there's something about maybe for you to, again, sort of look at what you can, there's something this is something you can't control. I mean, apart from telling your partner, your ex-partner, in this case, since you're separated, that apart from explaining again that how important it is for you, that you do believe and that you would want him to follow all the measures that are needed to protect ourselves, apart from repeating, explaining, and making sure you repeat that and address it. If this person doesn't believe in it and doesn't understand it the same way, and when I think there's something about you've done everything you could. There's something about you've put everything in your hand. You've done what's needed to be done. Then, when your child goes to this person, it's a little bit out of your control, and unfortunately, there's not much you can do. Maybe you can tell your child to be careful, to keep all the measures needed. Maybe you can, really set some new rules. But there's something about, yes, you can't really do much if that person is not respecting it. You can't force someone to do that. And I know it's very difficult to accept. And I know it's a very difficult situation for you. I get that. But once, we can't force someone to do that. So there's something about having to accept that when my child is with me, that's what I can do. I take all the measures. I really take care. I try to, again, tell my ex-partner, ex-husband, this is what I really would want you to do. And then when your child is with that person, making sure that your child understands as well what he can do about that. And I think you wanted something on when the child has a parent in a different country. Well, I think maintaining the contact as much as you can with Zoom, acknowledging with your child that it is a very difficult situation and that this is very sad, but maybe find different ways of connecting with the parent. Maybe intensify the connection, intensify try to be creative with what you can do. But again, I understand it's very difficult and a very sad situation. So finding ways to be more creative, maintaining the contact, and accept again that this is what's happening now. It's not going to be forever, and refocus on this is a temporary situation. Yes, it does feel like it's not going to end, but let's come back to right here, right now. This is what we can do. You know, we do our best to maintain a contact. We try to find creative way, and remember to focus on, at least we can Zoom. At least we have the technology today, and you try to see all these things with a positive lens, but acknowledging that it is really difficult. It's a tough time.
Thank you, Céline. There is a question about how to explain if COVID is causing some financial pressure on the family for a budget for probably.
Yes, well, I guess again, take the time to talk about it. Sit, I suppose you mean with your children, how to explain to your children. So I guess really talk about it. Sit with your children, explain the situation, explain what's going on. There is some financial pressure, and hopefully things will get back to normal. But right now we have to be attentive, we have to be more careful. And I think there's something about not keeping your children in the dark, and really explain, talk about it. Tell them that you are the parent, and you will make sure, although there is financial pressure, you will make sure you will try to keep things as they are. Maybe really just be more mindful, but that you're the parent and that you're the one who is in charge, and that you're going to be making sure that things will, as much as you can, stay the same. But that you have to revisit a few things. But this is a reality. This is something which is happening. This is not, unfortunately, that's your reality. And as best as you can, explain that. But also their children, and they need to feel secure. So as best as you can, make them know that, let them know that you're doing your best to deal with this situation, and that sometimes we have to revisit and be more careful, and hopefully things will go back to normal at some point.
We don't have any other questions on the chat. May someone add another question or two? If not, I will thank Céline for having this webinar with us. The question is not closed, so if you have some more information, if you have some more questions, or if you want Céline to precise some of the subject developed tonight, maybe I will put on the chat here the email of Céline, and you can write her directly for having maybe some documentation or some more precise question. While I'm writing, there is one question about screens, so maybe that's also an important moment at this time.
Sorry, can you still see me? Yes.
Une question sur les écrans et comment les gérer.
Très bien. Alors oui, la question des écrans, forcément, ça a été une question effectivement.
Sorry, Céline, we are in the English session.
Oh, sorry. Of course, we are in English. So yes, our children are spending more time on screen, and I think that has been one of the downside. Of course, they spend more time at home. They've been spending more time on screens. So I think it's really important to maybe reestablish some rules, and maybe especially with teenagers, chat with them about what's acceptable for them, but what's acceptable for you. And I would encourage you to let them know, okay, what do you think is going to be okay for you? Because what's okay for me is this. And work out together, collaborate, ask them, how much do you need? And then you can work on, well, it seems a lot to me because I understand you want to stay in touch with your friends. And that's been wonderful to have the tools to stay in touch with your friends, but re-establish some rules. You know, that there are friends, there's time for friends, but there's times for the family life, there's time to play games, there's time to exercise, there's time to do all this, to do different things. So establish some rules. How long does it seem okay for your child? And look at what seems reasonable to you and establish the rules. Maybe, you know, I think personally, I think 2 hours a day is a lot after, especially if they have spent already time on Zoom, maybe for their school or homework. So establish maybe some rules and look at, you know, when we're eating, there's no more screen. Maybe establish before we go to bed, you know, an hour before bed, we switch off the Wi-Fi and then we have an hour to relax. So it's about discussing and establishing rules together, but let them participate so that they feel you hear them, but remind them, you know, this is for their well-being. We all know it's not very good for us to spend so much time on screen. We need to find a balance. So it's really important. It's difficult with adolescents, for sure, but tell them, I know it's difficult. It's a great way for you to keep in touch with your friends, but let's try to find some rules that are acceptable for the whole family. We all have to live together.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Céline. And I think that I send your address to everybody. So if people have more questions, they could write to you. And I wish everybody a good evening and see you soon.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. And as I said, if you have any further questions, if you want to know a bit more about some of the tools I spoke about, please reach out and I can get back to you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.